The third installment of God's Man in War, which will be titled War, will be in part a look at how wars are often used to slow down and stop humanity from advancing. And more importantly, it'll show that we do so by killing off our greatest resource, our sons and daughters in the process. We are and have been at war for our freedom for a very long time. And in this video, I'm going to present just a few facts that are openly available from the To the Stars website. And I'm going to use a select video clip from none other than Stephen Colbert to address a few questions about disclosure that they raise. At the very end, I'm going to let Lou Elizondo in a recent interview bring it all together for you in a nice, neat little package. You will not look at the phenomenon, nor the events going on around the world today in the same way when this is done. Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button, and welcome to Disclosure 26, To the Stars Academy. War! This is the To the Stars Academy website as of December 5th, 2021, and we are looking at their advisory board. The first person I want to note is Hal Puthoff, and in particular, I want to point out that Hal Puthoff was part of the Stanford Research Institute trio that created the remote viewing program for the CIA, along with Russell Targ and Ed May. One thing you absolutely must grasp is that the program was not only remote viewing current places and times, but also the future. Russell Targ is quite clear that the future can be forecasted.
At the end of our program, right after I left, I formed a little organization called Delphi Associates. We were using remote viewing to forecast silver futures, working with an experienced remote viewer. We did 9 forecasts, whether silver is going to go up a little, up a lot, down a little, down a lot. All 9 forecasts were correct. We made $120,000, which is a lot of money in the 1980s. And we're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, BBC Horizon, Nova made a film about us. In the 1980s, ESP still existed.
I want to be perfectly clear in this statement, using the transitive properties of association. If Targ accurately remote forecasted the future price of silver, then there are remote forecasting programs within the alphabet agencies, aware of the future disclosure event. Not just aware, but engaged in preparation. How likely is it then that the program picked up on the pandemic before the virus was released? Here's Conan O'Brien on the question. His father is an epidemiologist for Harvard University, and somehow he was able to alert his son to the coming pandemic around 8 months prior to the outbreak.
I've got a bone to pick with you.
Oh, what's that?
That is, about a year ago, you stopped wearing a suit and tie and started going casual.
Yeah.
Jeans, maybe a leather jacket.
Yeah.
What did you know that the rest of us didn't know? Your dad's an epidemiologist, right?
Yes.
Did you get the inside scoop?
Yes. My dad has been a microbiologist. That's his profession. And he told me about a year ago, trust me, there's this thing coming and you're going to be broadcasting from home. So you should probably switch out of the suit and tie. And I said, Dad, shouldn't we be spreading this information for more useful purposes? Mm-hmm. And he said, I look after my own. That's a quote. And then he hung up the phone.
I don't sense Conan O'Brien's father as someone prone to tell the family untruths. And Conan O'Brien doesn't strike me as someone who would go on national television and tell an untrue story about his father with so many troubling implications. I bring up these connections because this gent here, Dr. Norm Kahn, has 30 years of experience in the CIA and spent 12 in the CIA's counter-biological weapons program. Remember, To the Stars Academy is about music and aliens and going to space and boomers. Why is there a counter-biological weapons specialist for the CIA advising TTSA? Is it possible that the Rona is indeed a biological weapon? Dr. Kahn is not the only one with a human biology background on the advisory team. Dr. Paul Rappa and Dr. Adele Gilpin both stem from the Department of Defense and come from the Traumatic Injury Research Program. If we are going to the stars, one might ask, how much traumatic injury is waiting for us in space that we need 2 specialists, including the head of the research program? Or is there a trauma and an injury occurring here on the planet now that we're about to address? Importantly, are we about to heal our war wounds? And what if healing those wounds include the population at large? I think we all agree that something like that would take a lot of communication planning with the healthcare industry. This here is Joe Sherman. He works at PricewaterhouseCoopers within the Health Industry Advisory Organization. Are there issues around the health industry for us to consider when going to space? I think that's reasonable. But is it also possible that there will be a need to effectively disseminate information through the healthcare industry? And would you not do that from inside rather than outside the organization? I sense that To the Stars Academy is involved in a much bigger picture, and if you scroll down further, you come to the featured news. And here we find that the company has a contract to produce trucks with extendable screens that can, quote, deliver potentially life-saving information. This includes real-time health crisis instructions, emergency information, humanitarian relief operations, and emergency management. That's a hell of a statement for a company planning for humanity's trip to the stars. And yet, right here in the release, they are clear that this truck will contain, quote, advanced technology that can potentially benefit society today as much as the generations of tomorrow. We are at war with an adversary who wants to maintain control over our reality. To do that, they need to keep our narratives at odds globally. And if you wanted to divide people within a nation and stop exchange between nations, the Rona represents a bold and desperate move. The question is, who, or more correctly, what, is making the move? Here's Lou Elizondo on the question of disclosing this hidden reality. A reality that we humans are not alone on the planet, and really haven't been the whole time. The takeaway in this clip, so we're all on the same page, is don't poke the nest. In fact, I might suggest the nest deserves a degree of guarded respect. I think Lou would agree.
With the phenomenon being so evasive, what level of confidence do we have that global disclosure will be a net positive for engagement with it? As an analogy, we know hornets exist, but poking the hornet's nest is ill-advised.
Well, let's define engagement. Is engagement the same as poking? I don't think so. International engagement is getting everybody on the same sheet of music about the topic. It's not necessarily being provocative. It's not necessarily poking, quote unquote, the hornet's nest. What it is, it's an acknowledgement that the hornet's nest exists and that hornets exist, and we should probably understand them. I'm not at all advocating that we go and poke the hornet's nest. What I'm advocating is that we need to study the hornet, and we need to study where the hornet lives and how it lives and its relationship to its environment, and ultimately its relationship to us, if any. What if it turns out that there's another species that is even higher on that ladder than we are? Do we need the social institutions that we have today? Will we need governmental and religious organizations that we have today if it turns out that there is something else or someone else that is technologically more advanced and perhaps from an evolutionary perspective more advanced? Have we been wasting our time all this time? Or are we doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing? Does it turn out that mankind is in fact just another animal in the zoo? Or because we thought ourselves as a zookeeper before, but maybe we're just another exhibit inside the zoo. What would that mean to us? So when I say sombering and sobering, I mean that there's going to come a point in this conversation where we're going to have to do a lot of reconciling with ourselves, whatever that means, from whatever philosophical background you have. This is going to impact every single one of us the same and yet equally and yet differently. And I think that's important. Do we find ourselves in a situation where history may have to be rewritten? So that's what I meant.